Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and I'm a gorilla in the wrist. If you watched the 1971 film Le Mans and thought, Jesus, what a pile of tiresome rubbish, but man, have they put a fantastic watch on that bloke's wrist, then this might just be the video for you. Today we're looking at the Megir 2182 Chronograph, homage to the fantastic Tag Heuer Monaco. Let's get into it. So before we get into the detailed specifications, we're going to do a quick run around the watch, quick wrist check. So today I'm wearing the rather lovely Squale Urban Gentry collaboration watch. Fantastic, this has pretty much become my daily. But back to this beauty. So what we're looking here is the Megir 2182 Quartz Chronograph watch. I bought it on AliExpress, partly as a bit of a joke, to be absolutely honest, for under £10 in the last sale. In terms of the specification, it's a slab-sided monster, let's be honest about it. And even worse, you're going to see my ugly mug in the reflection because it is very highly polished on the sides. But this is a bit of a beast at 43mm, 48mm lug to lug, so not quite as bad. 11mm thick, as we've just shown you, although the slab-sided nature it makes it seem much worse. It has a 24mm lug width, currently housing this not terrible leather strap. We'll get into that a little bit later. It's made of alloy. It contains the Langexin LD53 quartz chronograph movement. No, me neither. And has, I suspect, what I would probably call quite a busy dial. So let's just zoom in on the dial for a second. So what we have is a sort of inlay, a circular inlay in the middle of the watch. There's possibly a minute track going around the outside, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. It has a single baton at the 12, no other battens or indices. There are two subdials at the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock. The 9 o'clock is the chronograph minute, and the 3 o'clock subdial is a 24 hours indicator. And then beneath both of those is a chronograph seconds subdial, with the date stuck in the middle of it just for good measure. There's a nice pop of, so the hands are fairly simple, baton hands, with a bit of an orange tip, and then the second hand is a very long needle hand reaching all the way out to the minute track. Strap's not bad, colours are fairly bold. I do like the fact that they've branded it, although somehow I've whacked this against something. But that is, let me try and bring that a bit close to the camera. That is Megir branding. Seiko, take note, please. It's alloy, although it's got a stainless steel case back, which is very, very shiny, and is water resistant, which effectively is 30 meters water resistant. Let's get into the detailed specification. So what we have is a 43mm dial width. The lug to lug is 52mm. The lug width itself is this rather chunky 24mm, and the thickness is 11mm, as it is a quartz. The movement is a Langexin LD53 quartz chronograph. I have never come across before in my life. Because it's a leather strap rather than a bracelet, it comes in at 89 grams, and the crystal is acclaimed Hardlex, and I'm not sure that I entirely believe that. let's talk about the things I don't particularly like about this watch. So we'll start off with an obvious one. It's alloy, which means it's going to get scratched, which I think is a little disappointing. It may well be that because of the slab-sided nature of it, it was simply too much to be able to do it out of stainless steel at these sorts of prices. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for that, but it is a bit disappointing. The other challenge with it is the size. So the watch that this homage is, the Tag Heuer Monaco, is a fairly reasonable 39mm. And the difficulty with putting it up to a 43mm dial is that square watches wear big at the best of times. This one wears massive at 43mm. However, there is a slight oddity and something I would reflect on here. So let me just put this down for a second and show you what I'm talking about. So what I've got here is the Steel Dive 1974, the white one. I've slung it on a green tropic strap, just because. And when you look at the size, so bear in mind this is also a 43mm. It's the same size. But when you wear this one, it doesn't, I think because of the rounded nature of the case, it kind of conforms to the wrist in a particular way, and it doesn't look as big as you would think. I think partly also because the case slopes away down to your wrist as well. It kind of melds into your wrist to a certain extent, which clearly the Megir doesn't. But still at 43mm, I think it's over the top. It does wear quite big. If you've got a small wrist, don't bother. Just don't bother. It really won't be worth it. I think if this was a 39mm like the original, I might be really interested, because I kind of like the style. The next thing that I really don't get though is just the layout and the setup of the chronograph. So the first thing is that the 9 o'clock sub-dial, which is supposed to be the minutes for the chronograph, won't reset back to 0 or 60, which is a bit on the irritating side. But my expectation of a chronograph is that the big second hand is actually the chronograph hand. And in this one, it isn't. In this one, the chronograph hand is the hand, let's just get it going so you can see it. The chronograph hand is the 6 o'clock register. So that's what's supposed to be measuring seconds, and yet there are no seconds markings on it. It's got markings every 5 seconds, which pretty much makes it completely useless as a chronograph. So I kind of get what they were trying to do, but I think they've overcomplicated it, and as a consequence you've got a chronograph that doesn't really work as a chronograph, at which point you think, well, actually what I've got then is just an extra dial that makes it look more complicated than it needs to be. It's also a bit weird that they slap the date straight through the chronograph second hand as well. Why would you do that? Seriously. And my final point is that with everything going on this dial, and the colours, and the fact that it's sort of the shape of a TV, I find it really busy. I think the layout certainly lacks subtlety, shall we say. But I find it really busy. I quite like the colours. I'll give you credit for that. But I just find that layout really over the top. I think if they'd stuck to 2 sub-registers, it probably would have been much better. So let's talk about the things that I like about this watch. So I do have to say, although I don't think that they have executed the design particularly well, but I have to say that I am kind of a little bit enamoured with the style, this particular style. I don't think they've done it very well, but I do kind of like it. The second part is actually the strap's pretty good. I kind of like it. I mean, you could turn around and say that the stitching is a pretty nasty shade of orange and goes with the blue. But if you think about the homage watch, that actually the blue and orange are significant colours on that. So I do like that. And I do give them credit for the fact that they have branded the buckle. And the leather that they've used actually is pretty nice. I mean, the stitching is not the straightest in the world, but it is bright, it is colourful, it is very comfortable to wear. So I think I have to give them credit for that as well. And I guess the final point is that this isn't an expensive one. So for a bit of fun, as I say, I got this for under 10 quid. At that price, it's hard to really argue. I mean, it's not an F91, but actually on a medium to large size wrist, it wears okay. Perfectly reasonable. So if you're after something cheap that's a little bit different, then this is probably it. Just don't use it to time anything important because the chronograph is crap. So finally, I'm going to have a go at summing this one up really. It feels a bit mean to be too harsh or roast it really badly, given that it only cost me £10, 10 English pounds. And there is something to be said about the style and the fact that you can probably buy this and then flog it without having lost any money. But I do have to say the chronograph is barking me. I just don't understand why they've done that. So that's a bit of a disappointment. And if it was a couple of millimetres smaller, actually I'd probably keep it, even allowing for the daft chronograph function, just because I kind of like the style. I mean, it's not the greatest execution of the style, but actually it's interesting on wrist. Unfortunately, it's just too bloody big, and that's coming from a gorilla. So for me, I wouldn't recommend this watch. Certainly if you've got tiny little wrist, don't bother. It will look like you've strapped a helipad to your wrist. So genuinely don't bother if you've got really small wrists. It's a bit of fun. That's all you can ever really say about this. This is just a little bit of fun. And that's it for this one. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and comment. If you didn't like the video, well, do the same. More content coming up, sneak preview over the coming weeks. You can expect to see a Sega Design skeleton watch reviewed. Really interesting one, and a bit of a position shift for me. So you can look forward to that one. And then we've got the detailed reviews coming up for the Baltony chronograph, which is just gorgeous. So I hope you come back hope you come back to watch those over the next coming weeks. Other than that, just really remains for me to wish you all a fantastic weekend. Come on, England. Ashes glory awaits. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.